For someone who looked down on almost everyone, Sukuna still had standards. He respected potential, he respected strength, and more than anything, he valued pleasure. But that's nothing new. Sukuna's hedonism is one of the most obvious aspects of his character. But beneath it lies another value. One that's just as important. It explains his usage of binding vows, his euphoric reaction to fighting Maki, and the tragic irony of his character. Why Sukuna, despite all his power, was unable to develop as a character. Sukuna had a unique way to express his appreciation to other people. Usually he refers to everyone as a brat. But if Sukuna is impressed, he calls them by their full name. When Megumi wanted to summon Mahoraga, Sukuna instantly recognized his potential. Therefore he said Megumi's full name. It was similar with Higuruma. He also expressed great potential and Sukuna acknowledged it. Jogo and Gojo are different cases. Sukuna, being impressed by their strength, straight up complimented both of them. But there's one very special case, namely Yuta Okotsu. Yuta is a powerhouse. Boundless cursed energy, copy technique, and Rika. He had a big repertoire of copied techniques. Among other things, Jacob's Ladder and Cleave. Yuta is also among the most highly skilled sorcerers in the entire verse. He had mastery over RCT, being able to use it on others too. Inside his domain he could target his sure hit effect solely on Sukuna, excluding Yuji, and he could move around his domain. He managed doing everything while fighting against the King of Curses. But Sukuna still didn't think that Yuta was worthy of his acknowledgement. That was until Yuta returned to the fight inside Gojo's corpse. Sukuna was fascinated by how far Yuta would go to take him down. Sukuna was impressed by Yuta's commitment. That's the magic word we've been working towards. Sukuna loves commitments. Maki with her heavenly restriction is the ultimate commitment against cursed energy. Sukuna wasn't particularly impressed by her strength, but by her commitment. Maki with her abilities is the almost complete opposite of everything Sukuna tries to be. He uses cursed energy and his mastery of sorcery to live his life to the fullest. Sukuna's body with a second pair of arms for hand signs and a second mouth for chants is perfectly modified for sorcery. Maki, on the other hand, completely denies Sukuna's approach, which made him burst out of joy. He was so moved by her dedication that he entered the zone and started to hit black flashes. So we've worked out that Sukuna loves commitments. Now we have to ask ourselves why he was so obsessed with it. To understand it, we have to take a look at Sukuna's philosophy. Sukuna is a full-on hedonist. His highest goal is to maximize his pleasure. But Sukuna wasn't always so sure about his way to live life. From his conversation with Kashimo, we know that Sukuna wrestled a lot with different philosophies. In Sukuna's mind, he tried his best to understand the worldviews other people had, especially in terms of love, loneliness, and empathy. His conclusion, however, was always the same. Love is worthless. Sukuna at some point was 100% certain that his hedonistic worldview was the only and right way to live life. Therefore, he made an ultimate commitment to himself. As long as he's breathing, he will stay true to this particular approach to life. Each win against other sorcerers was a confirmation for his worldviews. And the only lose he accepted was death. In his fight against Yoruzo, Sukuna explained it. He said if he loses, she's allowed to do whatever she wants to him, because if he loses, he's dead. All of this fits perfectly with the way Sukuna behaved throughout the story. He was never ashamed of using any trick he had up in his sleeve, to survive or to win. For example, with Angel and Hana. Angel's Jacob's Ladder almost eliminated Sukuna. And what did he do? He pretended to be Megumi to manipulate Hana, so he got the chance to bite off her arm. In his fight against Gojo, Sukuna never cared about proving he was stronger under fair conditions. He made all preparations needed with Megumi as a second soul, the tamed 10 shadows, and Mahoraga as a prototype to bypass infinity, so he could win against Gojo as risk-free as possible. In Sukuna's final moments, he even tried to trash-talk Megumi so he could possibly continue to live. No matter how close a fight was, or which moves Sukuna had to pull to win the fight, as long as it's a win, it's a validation of his philosophy. Death is the only loss which could make him rethink his approach towards life, which then happened. But to be fair, as the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen progressed, Sukuna found more and more reasons to believe that his hedonistic philosophy was the only right path. Gojo and Kashimo were in a similar situation to Sukuna. They both were by far the strongest of their eras. And ironically, both of them approached Sukuna to fulfill their wishes. Gojo wished to finally have an all-out eye-to-eye fight with someone to not feel lonely. And Kashimo asked Sukuna if and how he empathized with people weaker than him, because he couldn't, and it weighed on him. They turned to Sukuna for help, as if he was their spiritual mentor. Sukuna, on the other hand, saw the struggle of the other strongest. And not just that, he even won against both of them. Because of that, from his point of view, his life approach was confirmed on 2 further occasions, and one time even against Gojo, who was by far the strongest sorcerer Sukuna ever faced. Sukuna's ultimate commitment towards his philosophy was a fundamental part of his personality. Therefore, he had a lot of respect and acknowledgement for other people who did similar commitments. So that leaves us with one final question. If Sukuna loved commitments and potential, why didn't Sukuna acknowledge Yuji earlier? Yuji had a similar commitment to his worldviews as Sukuna. He was very dedicated about the values his grandfather gave him in his last moments. In addition, Yuji had arguably the greatest power-up during the time skip. He went from solely being able to use Divergent Fist and Black Flashes to Blood Manipulation, Shrine, RCT, Simple Domain, and Domain Expansion. Even if that wasn't enough, Yuji in theory had the same potential as Sukuna himself, because he's connected to Sukuna's late twin brother. Yuji appears to be everything Sukuna claims to respect. Commitment, potential, determination. And yet, Sukuna religiously refused to acknowledge him until the very end. Why? To get the full picture, we need to go beyond Sukuna's philosophy and look at something much deeper. Carl Jung's psychological concept of the shadow. This video is a new format called JSS, Jungian Shadow Shorts. It's a branch of my regular Shadow series. Carl Jung was a pioneer of psychology. In his model of the psyche, there is the archetype of the shadow. The shadow contains all the repressed psychological parts of a personality, which also makes it the storehouse of potential. It's a difficult and challenging task to integrate the shadow. Some successful examples from anime are Naruto with his shadow, Kurama, Meruem with his shadow, Komugi, and even Yuji with a part of his shadow being Mahito. Yuji was the shadow of Sukuna and vice versa. If you want to know why Yuji was successful and why Sukuna failed to integrate his shadow, with more insights about their characters, as for example why Sukuna never learned to value the soul and how Yuji's grandfather was the key for Yuji to understand Sukuna's personality, and why Gojo didn't understand Sukuna at all. Watch the full version. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and write your opinion in the comments. By now, I made a ton of similar analysis videos, so feel free to check them out. More content on the way, so stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, hopefully see you soon.